right, hey, welcome inside the basement of the Rod Peterson Show bunker. I'm producer Clark. I'm joined by a very special guest here tonight. You'll notice it's not Max. Max is not here tonight. We have Les Lazaruk in the house. Les, how's it going, man?
It is good, Clark. It's good to be here. It's good to be able to move about in the COVID central of Regina and actually talk some sports beyond just the Western Hockey League hub. I'm looking forward to that because I like to think that I'm a little more well-rounded and not just around the middle than when it comes to different sports than just hockey in the Western Hockey League.
Absolutely, and we'll get into a few different things here today, but thank you for checking in. Obviously, you guys are the squad. You're the fanalists. This is the SquadCast, so make sure you're commenting in all night long. And we are brought to you tonight by our good friends over at Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions. They're based here in Saskatchewan, and if you need help with your business, finding out what you need, finding out how to get it, they can handle it all for you. They make your business run smoothly. So give Roxanne and Darnell a call. Visit them at rockstar.com. You'll see their company name on the screen right now. They can handle it all for you. So make sure you hit them up. As always, throughout the evening, you can ask us anything. Let's see Hulk Hogan here, boys. Ask us anything throughout the night. Send us in your comments. We will answer them throughout the evening. And if you have any questions for our very special guest coming up as well, make sure you hit them up in Facebook or YouTube now. We are going to get into our topics right away here. But of course, before we do, we have to mention Max isn't here to do his usual breakdown. Max usually writes a poem every show, and it's about what we're going to talk about throughout the evening, but he's not here. So I'm not going to do that because I don't want to steal Max's thunder, but we do have a very special guest. Stanley Cup champion Brent Sopel is joining us in about 15 to 18 minutes time, depending on how long we go on a couple things. And we have a lot to talk about. The Blue Jays season opens this week and a whole lot of NHL news. So let's get into it right now, Les. Let's start with the Blue Jays.
All right.
We got the baseball season kicking off this week. The Blue Jays play the Yankees on Thursday.
Yes.
So from spring training, obviously they won't be playing in Toronto, but I wanted to put that in there just to get that feeling of the Sky Dome, which it's not called anymore, of course. But what are your thoughts on the Jays so far? What have you seen in spring training, Les? And we'll get to predictions later on, but how are you feeling about the team right now?
Well, I like the idea that they've got really no holes in their lineup outside of pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's a pretty solid group, and there's a lot of versatility where a lot of guys can play different positions depending on where you need them to play. If you need, hopefully George Springer isn't hurt for the long term. He's got an oblique injury. Whether he's going to be able to start on Thursday against the Yankees remains to be seen. But the acquisition of George Springer to go out and sign a big-time free agent like that is just the icing on the cake on what is a pretty good-looking roster.
Yeah.
It was a good-looking roster before they signed Springer. I like Randall Grichuk in the outfield. I like Teoscar Hernandez. I like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. You go around the infield, and I'm still not sure that Vladdy Guerrero isn't a third baseman rather than a first baseman, but I'm seeing him still play more first base. I still think Kevin Biggio is more of a second baseman, Bo Bichette at short, and then whoever you had at first, be it Rowdy Tellez or whomever. But we're seeing Marcus Semien was signed as a free agent in the offseason. So you've got a guy that plays in the middle in the infield, playing second base more often than not. Biggio over at third.
Yeah.
We have Vladdy at first. Lots of options. Where do you put Tellez in? Obviously, somebody has to DH. You can give somebody a day off from time to time. And when does Springer play? Well, obviously, he's going to be the big guy. He's going to be the leadoff guy, and he's going to play center field for you.
Yeah.
But he's going to get some opportunities to have some days off, maybe do some DHing. That core of position players is solid. And what about the catching? Well, Danny Jansen, not going to hit a lot, but very good with the pitching staff. Reese McGuire, pretty good with the bat. I don't know how good he is with handling the pitching staff.
Right.
Alejandro Kirk, the big kid. Still kind of an unknown as far as I'm concerned. He came up late last year and did pretty well at the plate, but is he for real a major league catcher? So they've got some depth, no two ways about that with their position players. I think they're going to be good that way. The big issue, Clark, is going to be pitching.
Yes.
Hyun-Jin Ryu, is he going to be able to stand up and be the every fifth game starter for them? Is he going to have health issues? Steven Matz, I like as a starting pitcher. The bullpen, who's going to be the closer? It sounds like Romano's going to be the closer, and Delis is going to be the eighth inning setup guy.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to handle that workload during the course of the season effectively? So to me, the pitching is going to be the big key when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, so we've had Arash Madani on this show specifically, but we had the pleasure of having him on Rod's show earlier today. So his report was that they're really hoping for some bounce back seasons in the pitching department. So they got Robbie Ray, who has had success in the past. Can he get it back? They have Steven Matz, who's had good years in the past, decent years, anyways. He struggled last year. Can he get it back? David Phelps is a bullpen guy who they actually had last year, traded away, and did well after he got traded. Now they brought him back. So can he have another bounce back year? So it's guys like that. The Jays are betting on themselves. They're betting on their coaching staff to make these things work. And they need to see where they're at, because Arash said it today. He doesn't foresee them making a ton of moves in terms of trades right away. I think he says the vibe around the team is that they're probably going to see what they have for the first 2 months or so. And then by the draft, which I think is in June in baseball, by the draft, they'll start kind of determining whether they're in it or not. And if they are, may go out and they might make a big splash or bring in a starting pitcher or a couple of bullpen arms to kind of supplement everything. So I like that. If the management staff brings in these guys and they want to see if they can reclaim their careers, bet on yourselves and see where it goes. And if it's working out, maybe you help them out and you bring in a guy. One of the names that's been tossed around is Sonny Gray, who's I think he's with Cincinnati right now. He's had big years in the past with Oakland, and he actually had a decent year with New York as well. And then he went to Cincinnati, pitched well there as well. So Cincinnati's a team that they don't want any money on their books right now, so they're just kind of dumping guys left and right.
Yeah, and Sonny Gray, apparently that was somebody that the Blue Jays kicked the tires on in the offseason, looking at possibly signing him as a free agent, and he ended up not signing with the Blue Jays. Eventually that's good. I like the idea of waiting to see just how they're going to be and not necessarily making panicky moves if they get off to a tough start. I don't think they're going to get off to a tough start. They were pretty good in the spring. Not that you can't translate spring training results into regular season results, but it certainly helps that you get that winning feeling and you get a pretty good feel for one another. And there's no doubt that when you see a guy like Vladdy Guerrero hitting nearly 500 during the course of the spring, that you have a lot of hope that he has that big bust-out year and maybe hits 25, 30 home runs, drives in 100 runs, and hits around 300. If you get that out of him, man, that's going to be outstanding. And you're going to get good production from Bichette, Biggio. Those are big league hitters already, even though they're only into, technically, their third seasons of Major League Baseball. Yeah, and so with Vladdy, too, I think it was 421 was his batting average. And it's not like he barely played. He played 17 games. Like, that's a pretty good chunk of games for spring training. And he's hitting 421. And there's a lot of guys, actually, who were surprisingly had great batting averages. One thing I'm going to talk about later in the show is the catching battle. Alejandro Kirk was hitting 292, which is, for catcher, especially in Toronto lately, is amazing. Danny Jansen was 152. Yeah. So, maybe Danny Jansen is slowly but surely turning into, remember Josh Tolley? A couple years ago, he was R.A. Dickey's specialty catcher. Yes. Danny Jansen's turning into a guy who might end up being that kind of guy. Maybe he's a guy who latches onto a pitcher or two, and he's their catcher, and then Kirk gets everybody else as more of a starting guy. So I'm curious to see how they use their catchers in the next, this season's going to be a telling sign. Oh, absolutely. But with catching, there's no such thing anymore as a guy there's very few Salvador Perez's left anymore. Or I'll date myself and show my age. Johnny Benches that will play 140, 150 out of 162 games. That doesn't happen anymore. There's so much wear and tear, especially now when you've got guys consistently throwing 95 miles an hour and up, and several guys who bring it at 100 miles an hour with their fastball. You get dinged a lot back there. Don't call it the tools of ignorance for nothing. I mean, you get split fingers, you get broken hands, you get, all kinds of bumps and bruises. It's impossible to play 140, 150 games as a catcher anymore. So you've got to be able to split it up. And if you end up latching on to a pitcher or two, like you say, in Jansen's case, you're still going to get your games. You're still going to get your at-bats. You still have opportunities to prove that you're nothing more than a DRK. a designated rally killer, which can happen with some guys.
You don't love that. No, you don't love that.
No, you don't love that. But you're going to get your opportunities.
Absolutely. We're going to switch gears now, Les, into the hockey scene. So I wanted to talk NHL North Division with you, Les.
Yes.
I know you're a Winnipeg boy.
Yes.
So give me your thoughts quickly. Not quickly. Take your time. But on the Winnipeg Jets. This season so far, right now, I was just pulling up the standings there. Right now, they're sitting in second place behind the Leafs, ahead of the Oilers. It's a point separating all three of those teams. And then the Canadians are way behind with 37 points.
Good.
But they got a ton of games in hand, though, Les.
I know.
They've got 5 or 6 in hand on everybody. So what are your thoughts right now, specifically with the Jets? And then you can expand to the rest of the division.
All right, well, I'll start with the Jets. I'm thrilled to pieces with what they've been able to do. My concern going into this season was they had a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck. He was all-world last year. He was phenomenal for the Jets last year, and yet they didn't get all that terribly far. They got into the play-in round and lost out to Calgary, and that was it, and that was unfortunate. Right. And then everybody was concerned about their defense. It wasn't very good. Well, the defense has stepped up and been pretty darn good, led by Neil Pionk for the most part. But Derek Forbert's played very well. But Hellebuyck, I said prior to the start of the year, if they get 75% of last year's Hellebuyck this year, they'll be fine. Well, they've gotten more than that. I would say anywhere between 90 to 100% of Hellebuyck this year. And Laurent Brossoit plays basically the back half of the back-to-back games and has looked okay, the former Edmonton Oil King Jr. The fact that the Jets are getting the goaltending that they're getting from Hellebuyck allows them to go out and make the deal that they made. And adding Pierre-Luc Dubois in exchange for Patrick Laine, which at the time I wasn't all that terribly in favor of, looks like a stroke of genius on behalf of Kevin Cheveldayoff, their general manager. To me, at the time, I thought he was going to get hung in effigy down at the corner of Portage and Maine. But wow, that turns out to be a stroke of genius. And now they've got all kinds of different combinations that they can use. Watch Paul Maurice last night switch up his forward lines. All of a sudden, he's got Scheifele out there with Connor and Ehlers, and the chemistry is instantaneous, and they were outstanding last night. 8 points between them as they knock off the Flames 5-1. So I'm thrilled for the way the Jets have gone. Whether they're the best team in the Canadian division, well, that remains to be seen. I think Edmonton, if they can continue to get goaltending from Mike Smith, they have the best player in the league. It hurts me to say that, but I'll give Connor McDavid the credit he's due. Toronto, coming up to the season where the Leafs fall, but we'll see whether that happens this year or not. They're actually pretty good as well. No, but you know what?
I know.
But all their history, unfortunately. I mean, I do remember their last Stanley Cup, Clark. I'm old enough to have actually watched those games and thrilled the fact that the Leafs beat the Montreal Canadiens in 1967 for the Stanley Cup. I watched it. If they could somehow do that again, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, but they got to get that goaltending situation fixed up as well. Right.
Now that brings up another conversation with Jack Campbell and what's going on with Freddie Anderson for the Leafs. And I could go on an hour-long rant. But first, let's bring in some commenters here. Big shout out, first of all, to Katie Fleury and Janelle Barkman, who have sent us Facebook stars. Thank you very much. Good. That's huge support. It helps us out a lot. Thank you for that. Our buddy Jared Dumba, who I know you know. Does Les have a fight coming up? He's in fighting shape. Looking good, brother.
Jared, you know me. I'm the lover, not a fighter. There's no two ways. I'm dropping the mitts with anybody, even you, because you're notoriously a non-fighter in your day. In junior hockey, as I recall.
I don't know if Jared's ever met a hocky fight that he hasn't been a fan of. I think he's been in his fair share.
Jared and his dad Al, they're Prince people. They're outstanding people, and I miss seeing those types of people around the rink because of what we've had to go through.
Hockey royalty, the Dumbas, indeed. That's for sure. Chad Isaac, who's a Flames fan, Les, he says, "Don't get me started on last night's game." Did you watch that game last night?
I watched a lot of it last night.
Let's talk about that for a sec. What are your thoughts on the whole Jets Flames and occurrences last night?
Well, I think a lot of the Flames fans aren't all that terribly excited about the first goal of the hockey game.
That's what Chad's saying.
That got off the skate and in. Yeah, it looked like a kicking motion, but they took a look at it every angle possible, and you win some and you lose some. Lord knows, over the course of time, I've seen enough of my teams lose those sorts of arguments. I'm happy to finally win one of those situations. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Chad. The Flames are going to win a few. They're going to lose a few. You lost a few last night. Sorry, that's the way it goes.
Suck it up, Chad.
All I know, Chad, is that the Blades director of communications, Mitch Bach, and I have a bet for this year. He's a big-time Flames fan, and I'm a big-time Jets fan, and it's lunch on the line.
Oh, good.
So guess who's going to be eating well?
It's funny you mentioned that. Me and Chad earlier this year had a Flames-Leafs bet. 2 games in a row as a back-to-back. I won both of them. He had to wear Leafs jerseys after both games. And since then, I haven't bet because the Flames have actually got the better of the Leafs a couple of times since. So I'm glad we didn't do the follow-up bets, Chad.
He'll be writing in right away.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's gonna start chirping right away. Let's go to the WHL now. You're wearing the beautiful Blades shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
You wanted to talk a little bit about how successful the Blades have been and maybe why you think that is.
Well, I think to a large degree it has a lot to do with their preparation coming in. I don't know how many practices teams got in. You're seeing there the Brent Center itself. But teams were given the opportunity to utilize the Cooperator Center next door if you were willing to pay the freight.
Right.
This wasn't something that you could just go ahead over and do on your own whenever you felt like it and go ahead and practice at the Cooperator Center. You had to pay the fee that you would have to do in order to do that. So the Blades stepped up, paid for a few extra practices at the Cooperator Center. They did some two-a-days. Wow. This isn't football. Yeah. I mean, football, you get some two-a-day workouts. The Blades did some two-a-days prior to going in, and I think that really helped them to get the chemistry going that they have gotten right now. And they're off to an 8-0-1 start. They've won 6 straight, and they're in pretty good shape in the East Division moving forward because nobody still knows whether there's going to be playoffs or not. And that remains to be seen. That's still on the table.
That's becoming kind of a big topic of discussion is, what are they going to do now? Is it going to be league-wide? Is it going to be division-specific? Have you heard any rumblings that you're allowed to talk about?
Well, there's rumblings. The rumbles is that you will have a very brief possible division playoff with the idea that maybe at some point you get your top team from each division, 4 of them, and put them into a hub somewhere and let them play it off. But again, it's not going to be the traditional bunch of best-of-7 series. You're going to end up with some sort of a modified tournament. Maybe you'll go and utilize the curling page playoff system for 4 teams, which I think works out pretty well. If you finish first or second, you get your yourself a chance to have a second life if you happen to lose your first game. So I think there's some possibilities with those sorts of things. If they decide, no, we're not going to go to a full league championship, maybe you'll see a couple of best-of-7 rounds within the division just to declare a division champion.
That'd be fun.
I think you're going to find that eventually the league is trying very hard to get these schedules of the 4 divisions to end at similar times so that then you could have a playoff after that. And I really think the Western Hockey League is bound and determined to do something beyond that, even though they're not saying it. They just don't want to come out and be all that terribly, boisterous about trying to do this. But I think in the back of their minds, they've got it in their heads that we'd really like to do this because I think it would really be something special for everybody involved, including the fans, to see this sort of a thing.
Yeah, keep the expectations low, maybe in this circumstance, and overperform. That was the top of the order, brought to you by our good friends over at Flame Tech Combustion Services. Flame Tech's challenge. While the world has been facing one challenge after another, I botched this, Reed. While the world has been facing one challenge after another, our focus at Flame Tech has remained the same for over 20 years, and they are proud to support initiatives and community services such as this one, our show. So thank you for that. Visit flametech.ca for more information today. We have one more quick one, real quick, right before we go to our break. It's the Vigor fan vote. It's time for our Vigor fan vote of the day. Our topics today that people were voting on over on Twitter, the Raptors keep Kyle Lowry. I was actually wanting to talk about that one, maybe later in the show. The Blue Jays predictions. What do we got for Blue Jays predictions? Stanley Cup predictions, and then Clark on the Leafs, which never wins. It actually has won once. I will say. I'll give myself credit. I did win one time, but Blue Jays predictions won by a whopping. I think they were like 20% ahead of everybody else. Nice. So, what are your thoughts? 30 seconds or less, less.
Yes.
On the Blue Jays in terms of their season predictions.
90 wins. Second place in the East Division, probably behind Tampa Bay. The Yankees will give them a battle for second, but they will be a wild card team in the American League.
I love it. I was going to say 90 in third, and they will still somehow claw to a wild card spot. Yankees, I think, will finish ahead of them. Tampa's right in that discussion. I don't think Boston's quite back to where they were, and Baltimore is
a dumpster.
They're having a tough time. But we'll talk about baseball again more later in the show in the Bluebird block. But we got to get to a break. That topic was brought to you by Vigor Lifestyles. That's vigr.ca. They have a ton of natural health and healing supplements. Jared Dumba's actually involved in that company.
Yes, he is.
So make sure you check them out. Me and Max have been taking the Elk Velvet Antler, and it's fantastic. Jared, I do need some, by the way, if you don't mind putting in an order for me. But check out VIGR. That's vigor.ca, and get on the right path for you. We're heading to a break. Brent Sopel, Stanley Cup champion, is coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain, from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar Buying Group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we, as people, strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
All right, we aren't going to waste any more time, Les, because we're heading down to Florida right now. Don't bring him in yet, guys. I got to talk him up first. Our featured guest tonight is not only a 12-year NHL veteran and a Stanley Cup champion, but he's also the founder of the Brent Sopel Foundation. I don't know if I just gave away who our guest is.
You did.
Which provides financial and educational assistance to dyslexic students to fulfill their potential through early detection and intervention and teacher training, and we'll get more into that later. But for now, you may have guessed it, welcome to the SquadCast, our good buddy, Brent Sopel. Let's bring him in here, guys. Brent, how are you doing tonight?
That guy.
I'm doing just fine. You know, I'm about 5 minutes from Dunedin Stadium, so Blue Jays is right down the street, so I'm doing well.
Have you been able to get any games under your belt this year?
No, I haven't. Life after hockey, I'm busier now than I was playing hockey, so I've got my hands full right now.
Can't argue with that. I know what you mean. Brent, we're here with Les Lazaruk, voiceless Saskatoon Blades. You probably saw the opening segment. So he's going to have some questions for you right away here. But first, I wanted to start it off, Brent. I know in the past when you've been on the Rod Peterson Show, for example, we've talked to you about the Chicago Blackhawks and how they're taking their turn in the cycle. But this year, they've surprised a few people. They're in a playoff spot right now. They're tied for one, I should say, but they've been holding on. They've been scrapping this year. They've been struggling lately, but overall, what are your thoughts on the Chicago Blackhawks this year from what you've seen?
Well, they still have some big pieces there. Obviously, Patrick Kane. This type of hockey is suited for him. So he came in the league when in 07. It was a little more rougher, but the way they're calling the game now, he's getting better and better, and he can skate all day long and play this type of game. Obviously, DeBrincat too. But you got Duncan Keith on the back end, who's been a workhorse. Guys lives on the ice. He's been been on the ice so many hours. It's absolutely insane. But he's got some good veteran presence that obviously know what they're doing. They've won Stanley Cups. They've won Conn Smythe. So there's some young guys too that are filling a spot. But like you said, 3 Stanley Cups. There's some little dry spell here, but I take 3 Stanley Cups to have a dry spell.
Oh, absolutely. Now, speaking of 3 Stanley Cups, you were there for one of them. So let's flash back for a minute. June 9th, 2010 was the year that you won with the Chicago Blackhawks. Then 2 weeks later, pretty much on the dot, you were traded along with Dustin Byfuglien, Ben Eager, Akeem Aliu, who's been in the news himself, to the Atlanta Thrashers. So we'll get into the Thrashers in a sec, but in terms of winning the Stanley Cup, having that euphoria, especially in Chicago where it would have been nuts, I can only imagine. But then you get traded 2 weeks later. What was going through your mind in that moment in time?
Well, the big difference is it's a business, nothing else. Obviously for fans, it's a sport, but it's a business. And I could sit here all day long and tell you horror stories of what goes on behind the scenes. So we all knew that was coming. I think there's 10 of us that got traded because they signed extensions to Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith got one, Tues and Kane. So I guess they picked them over me. I'm not sure why, but we all knew it was coming. But obviously leaving on a high note, winning the Stanley Cup, I think nobody wanted to leave. Obviously Chicago's a great city. It was an absolute mayhem winning the Stanley Cup. And that team was just, I think we ended up finishing top 10 of best teams in history. So none of us wanted to go, but obviously it doesn't matter to us. It's a business, and they had to get under the salary cap, and 10 of us went all over the place, and I ended up in Atlanta.
Sopes, it's 23 years since I probably last saw you face to face. You haven't changed. You look the same. Good on you, man.
You do too, Les. It's good to see you. You're looking good.
It is good to see you too. What I have to ask you, though, with regards to that Blackhawks championship, okay, you get traded 2 weeks later, but you're going to get your day with the Stanley Cup. Take me through that day. I mean, it's got to be a little bit bittersweet because you're no longer a part of that franchise, but yet you've earned that day, the opportunity. Where did you have the day? What did you do? Is there a funny story that goes along with having the cup for that day?
Yeah, being one of the oldest guys, I got the cup a couple times. My one day I took it to the Pride Parade. So I was the first athlete ever to participate in the Pride Parade, brought the Stanley Cup there in honor of Brendan Burke, Brian Burke's son, who came out gay in November and died in a car crash. So that was one day. The Blackhawks gave me an extra day. The other day is that I kept it in my house here in Chicago. Usually everybody goes back home. I'd go back to Saskatoon, but my kids were older. My kids were closer to age in Kane and Tues than I was to Kane and Tues. So they had their friends in school. So I kept it, had a big party, had about 400 people. All my family came from Canada, but took it to the hospital, took it to the police station, took it all to places like that, let everybody take pictures. They deserve it, first responders. So we had a great day. Had my tractor. I pulled out of my farm in Steen, Saskatchewan, redid. So I was driving the streets with the Stanley Cup, and Chicago, they're like, a tractor, they don't even know what's going on. So we had a lot of fun, and we partied hard. None of us were sober, but it's. I knew it was going to be a once in a lifetime thing for me, and winning the Stanley Cup has allowed my foundation to escalate. So I am so grateful for that.
Absolutely, Brent. For your own career, maybe the best move that ever happened for you, and it was tough to see you leave because it was my first year covering the Saskatoon Blades and doing their play-by-play, but you got traded 22 games into the season to the Swift Current Broncos. Now, that Blades team had Warner, Belak, Allen on defense, along with Andrew Kemper, I believe, was one of the defensemen. Michael Grady was there, Chris McAllister, all those types of guys. It was tough for you to be in the lineup all the time, but you were getting in there. But you get traded to Swift Current, and bang, you immediately become a sensation there as an 18-year-old, and it carried you, I think, towards what you were able to do, didn't it?
Well, they always say change is usually the toughest, but it's usually the best. And you're right. I was playing at home, and all those guys that you named off, obviously they're all 6'4" or taller, and they're, compared to me, and they all could move better than me. And I was still learning the game. So to get an opportunity to go to Swift Current and Todd McCollum, obviously still coaching the LA Kings now, winning Stanley Cups, did a lot for my game, but I needed the opportunity to play. And you can watch as much video as you want or watch as many games, but you never learn until you're on the ice and make those mistakes yourself to watch them after. And I got that opportunity in Swift Current, and I just tried to take the ball and run with it. And I got I'm thankful for the opportunity. Swift Current was a great town. Everybody knew where we were at all times. So it was so small, but it sucked. It sucked leaving home for the first time, but it was the best thing for my career.
So, Brent, you go from Swift Current and you carve yourself a 12-year career. What was it about your game that you think dragged you through all those games and all those, you were kind of considered, my dad's chime in and he says Sopel's heart is as big as he is. So you were considered one of those heart and soul types of guys. So what was your first couple years in the league like as you carved your career in the NHL?
Well, obviously you've got to have some coaches and GMs believe in you. So you got Brian Burke and Mark Crawford. They believed in me. During some trade deadlines, Berkey would call me and say, "Hey, your name's out there, but I'm not trading you." Mark Crawford we had a love-hate relationship, but he believed in me. He knew how to get me the most out of me, and he kept putting me out there. And obviously, I was partnered up with Matthias Olin, who was just a complete rock star. And again, I played. They let me play, and my development took a long time. Obviously everybody knows I was always ranked as the slowest and ugliest, but I had to figure out my game differently. And, being slow, my anticipation had to be better than anybody's. And it was just learning the game, big boys. And back then, pre-04, 05, it was a war every single night.
So I always love asking guys, and I haven't gotten the chance to talk to a ton of guys who actually got to play in Atlanta. But you go from Chicago to Atlanta, and it was actually their last year in Atlanta. So that's another interesting part. Yeah. But what was the vibe around the Thrashers that year? Because, they had some pretty decent players, guys they got from the Blackhawks, but they turned into the Jets, who have turned into a pretty decent franchise themselves. So what was it like in Atlanta that year, going from Chicago to Atlanta?
It was my favorite city to play in.
There you go.
It was in the South. It was in the South. Obviously, the weather was great. We had we had a great team. We had some great crowds. I like the attitude. Obviously being a Saskatchewan boy, I don't care what you have. Are you nice? Hold the door for people. I just like the Southern hospitality, and I loved Atlanta. I really did. And unfortunately, again, kind of take a look at Arizona, take a look at Florida. They've all struggled. If you're not good consistently in a warm weather climate where there's other options, you have a very, very hard time to make it. I live here in Tampa Bay, and obviously the Lightning are good every year, sold out. But you go down 2 hours down the road, it's empty seat night most of the time.
Yeah. Nice to be able to see you, Brent, as I was saying earlier on. The idea that your career was such, I thought that you could play it any way you wanted. I mean, you're being very, very modest with regards to speed and everything else. Heart makes up for a lot of that kind of stuff. And if you wanted to mix it up, you could mix it up. If you wanted to go with the puck, darn it, you could go. And it would be tough to catch you, I found at times, over the course of your career. That's, I think, what set you apart from a lot of your teammates along the line, correct?
Yeah, and I kind of, whatever was going on that night, you had to play that way. And, for myself, I had to fit that role, whatever that is. And, like you said, if one of my teammates get ran, yes, I was going in there and fighting. Yep. Did I do that on a regular basis? No. But for me, team came first. And those are all my brothers. And somebody took a run, I was going out there. Even I was going to get my ass kicked or not, whatever it was, I was going. But again, my dyslexia, which we'll get into, is really the cornerstone of my career. My work ethic, something called my spatial awareness. It was allowing me to do exactly what you're talking about, Les, was to filter into, what I need to game. Was that offensively? Was that rush the puck? Was that sit back? I could analyze a game really well and see where I needed to kind of, fit that hole.
You're down in Tampa, as you mentioned. Do you still keep in touch with guys that you used to play with, either NHL, maybe even junior? I mean, everybody talks about brotherhood at the Western Hockey League level. Do you still have guys that you still catch up with from time to time?
Well, I'm actually going to go see Brad Larson. Play with him off season, so current captain. He's here in town, Columbus Blue Jackets. So obviously, it's tough to keep up with guys a lot. Time changes. They're often doing their own thing. I'm in town here. Luke Shen, obviously, Sass Boy. Unfortunately, they're in quarantine, so I do talk to them, but I can't see them. Vasilevsky here in Tampa, I play with them in Russia. But I was saying before, I'm so busy. I'm going 16, 18 hours a day with my foundation. That's my purpose in life. And I've got a solar company here in Florida, too, that I'm building where I'm running the whole state. So I do keep up with guys here and there, but not on a regular basis. I just don't have enough time in the day.
I have one more before we get into the dyslexia, into your foundation. KHL, you played there. What was that like? Were some stereotypes about it going in busted because you were able to play there and experience it firsthand?
You know, it kind of goes back to what you're talking about earlier. You got to have that mindset. And my mindset was do whatever it took to continue to play. And I played 3 years in Russia, and I absolutely loved it. They treated me great. One of my best friends that I still talk to today, and he is my best friend, I met playing over there. And so we were in out of 10 different countries, you know, Kazakhstan and Belarus and Latvia, just places that you would have never been, and all through, Russia and Moscow. And, just some crazy things. They treated me well. I got to continue my career 3 more years. It allowed me to get to 1,000 professional games. I loved it, every second of it, but it is a mindset. You're going to a different country where I only speak Canadian. I don't speak American yet, and never mind Russian. So it was definitely an experience. I loved every second of it, and I was just grateful that they allowed me to come over there and see the world.
Good stuff.
Do you have another one, Les?
No, you go ahead.
So yeah, let's get into your foundation now. I have a couple more for you after, so we'll rapid fire you a few at the end. But what was it like for you? I know the story, but maybe you can tell it again with I think it was your daughter, correct? So what was it like when you found out first of all, and what drove you to start the foundation in the first place?
Well, I was 32 when I found out I was dyslexic. So my daughter was struggling. We took her into a neuropsych to get tested, and she went through her test. We went back a couple days later for the results. And as we were going through the results, I'm like, oh, that's me. And, that was the process to get diagnosed. And that's very common right now for that happening. So I was 32 years old, obviously midst my career. I didn't care, but, I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school. So, I was just more focused on my daughter. It was get her the help that she needed. I started the foundation after I went to rehab. I left the game of hockey and not having an education or work experience. Nobody hired me. My drug and alcohol abuse got, really bad and out of control. I was almost dead before my 40th birthday, and I went to rehab, and I had to learn who I was, and walked into the real world when I was 40 with learning disorders. So I had to be okay with who I was, and that, I struggle with the simplest things of reading and writing. I'm good at other things, but I really had to go back and be okay with all that. But I just never want a kid to feel the way that I do. If you catch this, it's kind of like cancer. You catch it early. All right, there's ways around it. You teach them differently. You're okay. But you don't want to be reading, in high school at a grade 4 level and try and be with your peers and getting people laughed at and then turning into a bully because that was the only way I could handle it.
Sopes, God bless you that you're able to recover from your demons of the past and set up this foundation. Yes, it may have been inspired to a large degree by your daughter, but give me an idea. When you get somebody that applies to your foundation and has dyslexia and needs the supports, what are some specific things that they're going to be able to get that can help them to try and overcome and have as close to a normal life as you can possibly have?
Well, the biggest thing is that, support them. No matter whatever battle you're in, drug, alcohol, depression, you always think you're alone. And dyslexia, we all think that we're alone. So my first and foremost is you're not alone. You know, because it's obviously we're born with a right brain, Ryan. It's in here. And the 3 words that we're called are dumb, stupid, and lazy, because nobody can actually see it. You know, if you're blind, they get more support than we do. So that's the biggest message that I do with the foundation, is that you're not alone. And then, you know, and then we start, you know, building it from there. You know, you learn differently, and it is a self-esteem. That is the biggest problem with dyslexics, is that we don't have any self-esteem, because we start struggling from the first time that we grab that book. And like I said, took me 32 years to figure out So I've got a lot of scars. I just let these kids know they're not alone, and talk to the parents and get them to understand what it is. And it's everybody thinks it's flipping your B's and D's. There's a way more than that.
How much has COVID-19 and this pandemic exacerbated this issue for people that are coming to the foundation and say, help us, we need some help here?
Obviously with e-learning, but you know, I do a lot of counseling with drug and alcohol abuse, and that's been, you know, obviously rampant. Suicide's been rampant. It's, you know, the world's in a different place. So, you know, anybody who reaches out to me, you know, you ever got a problem, you need something, reach out to me through the website. We're just launching in Canada here in about 2 weeks. The Canadian website will be up, so you can email me through there or social media. I always will get back to you. Might take a little bit of time, but I'm always there to support and help anybody. I've had almost everything happen to me, and you know, I'm here to help anybody that I can. I don't care who you are, what you are. I'll try and help to the best of my ability any way I can.
That's amazing. Janelle Barkman checking in from Saskatoon. She says, yes, I see you know Janelle.
Yeah,
Everybody knows Janelle in Saskatoon. Come on.
Yes, she says, yes, winning the Stanley Cup has put the foundation more in the limelight, but it's very much due to Brent's openness, hard work, and giving spirit. So kudos to you, Brent. We got John O'Flynn checking in from North Vancouver. Great and powerful witness. Thank you, Brent. Donna Berger from Central Butte, Saskatchewan, home of my family comes from Central Butte. Donna Berger says, great point. They need support. Absolutely. And John is actually chiming in again. He says, my wife and I are listening and watching. Very impressed. So you've made a few new fans here tonight,
Absolutely.
Brent. So let's go back to hockey a little bit for a couple of rapid fires before we let you go, Brent. We got about 5 more minutes or so. You good, Les?
Yep.
So the one question I had is if you were, let's say, commissioner for a day, everyone always says that, but if you were oh yeah, I don't know if we want to get there, I guess. But if you could change a rule in hockey, maybe one that bugged you,
Oh boy.
bugged you when you were playing, or maybe now that you're not playing, maybe you see it happening more often or something. If you could change a rule, what would it be?
You know, call me a dinosaur. I'd like to go back to 0405. I liked when there was a war every single night, when it was a battle. You know, everybody left cut and bruised. You had to fight for your space. Now, you know, Tom Wilson's getting suspended for hits that he shouldn't get suspended for. I like the physicality. That's who I was. That was a game. It was a war. It was a battle. Now it's just too many guys, you know, sharing, you know, carrot sticks and doing yoga. It's not the way that I like it. Call me a dinosaur, call me whatever you want, but I would go back to pre-0405.
That's a good one. Out of all the young players in the league, you mentioned some, you know, there's a lot of skill coming up nowadays, but out of some of the younger players, who are you really keeping an eye on right now?
Well, you know, you got Connor McDavid, who's, you know, another level. Nathan McKinnon, who's an absolute another level. And like you said, the skill is uncontrollable. I never had a skill coach. I was a dump and chase, get it off the glass, Brent, get off the ice. And, you know, these kids are on the ice with skill. You can go into every single team and find, you know, obviously you guys talking about Winnipeg, last year team, you know, Connor, the speed, the hands, how quick that release that is. And that's what a shot is. It's not how hard, it's how quickly you can get it off. And Pettersson in Vancouver. So the league's full of amazing talent, absolutely amazing talent. And, you know, it's okay for me to watch. I just like to see more physicality. I like to see more, you know, and I don't mean fights. I just make it tougher and make it tougher to get to those areas. And you talk, a lot of the kids do flybys now. You don't see guys finishing check the way that used to be like last year. You know, you've caused enough games. You know, these kids will actually stop before they go into hit a guy. If I did that, I would have been stapled to the bench and never came back. So I'm a dinosaur, but the skill, we could go to every team and talk about some of the players. It's unbelievable.
Long live dinosaurs. I'm right there with you.
Janelle actually threw out a question. I thought this one was interesting, so maybe we'll leave you on this one. But a couple years ago at the draft, I was actually there attending the draft in Vancouver with my buddy Jeremy Corrigan. We were talking about him earlier. He's play-by-play voice himself. And number 3 rolls around, and the Blackhawks are on the board, and they pick Kirby Dach. And if you were in the building that night, there was a wafting boo across the stadium, and I was surprised. But Janelle says Brent once mentioned that he wasn't a fan of drafting Kirby Dach. I'm curious what his thoughts are now on that.
Yeah, I still think it was the wrong pick, and I'm not saying Kirby Dach's not a good player, but how do you win Stanley Cups? You need a number 1 and a number 2 D-men, and you talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. What don't they have? And you can't trade for number 1 or number 2 D-men. Nobody gives them up. So Bowen Byron getting passed up, so you pass them up, handed them to Colorado. Now look at their defense, Makar and Byron. So let's get something straight. Kirby Dach is a great player. It's going to turn out great for him. I just would have, banked on having, if you ended up with 3 number 1 D-men's, guess what? You can trade one of them for 4 Kirby Dachs plus 6 draft picks. So Kirby's a great player. Good to see him back from that wrist injury, but I just would have stacked up on the blue line. I wouldn't have passed up, a guy of that talent. You'd never hear of D-men being said they're guaranteed number 1 or 2 D-men. That doesn't happen. So I wouldn't have passed up on that. Again, you take a look at the Maple Leafs, you take the teams that don't win. That's the piece that they're missing, and they'll never find them because you got to draft those and build those from inside.
Love the explanation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding.
So last one, I want you to tell me, and we're going to quote you on this, who's your Stanley Cup favorite right now?
I'm going to have to go with Colorado Avalanche. I think Vegas just isn't as deep. I think the Pietrangelo signing wasn't very good. I think their weak spot is down the middle. I think I would have taken the money and put that down the middle. They can't match up down the middle with the Colorado, and you just saw it was a 5-1 the other night. It ended up being a great game in overtime the other night. But I just think that down the pipe is where the games are won and lost. I always say that you win Stanley Cups with your 3rd and 4th line and your 4, 5, 6 of D-men, and that's where they're a lot stronger.
Well, perfect, Brent. We're gonna tweet that out. Brent says Colorado Avalanche. Perfect. I love it.
I like it.
Brent, thank you so much for joining us. Les has an appointment over at the Brant Center. He's going to the WHL game tonight. Pat's Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Get to know the name right now.
That's right.
Connor Bedard is playing. Who are they playing?
Moose Jaws.
The Moose Jaw
It's the
Warriors.
Trans-Canada Clash, the Pats and the Warriors. That's always used to be good for a war all the time. Now it'll be a good game.
A couple line brawls, the crushed
That's
band.
right. Don't see that anymore, my friend. Don't see that anymore. Good to see you. I mean, the connection to do that again. I hope to get in touch with you again here soon because we do a podcast up in Saskatoon, the Blades Uncut podcast. Hopefully we'll get that opportunity maybe to get you on and chat with you a little bit on that maybe.
You know what? Anytime you want, Les, I'll be there.
Good stuff. I appreciate that.
We'll swap contact
We will.
information.
Absolutely.
I'll have my people reach out to your
That's
people.
right.
Les.
There you go.
All right, Brent, we'll let you go. Have a great night. Enjoy the weather down there. It's snowing up here, so you're in a great spot. And we'll talk to you again soon.
It was plus 30 today, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Sorry.
All good. Thanks, Brent. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Of course, our video guests are always brought to you by our friends over at IKS Media. IKS is your premier destination for event planning, live broadcasts, entertainment, and doubles. Am I correct in saying that, Les?
The double, yeah.
You quoted it. You coined the phrase.
I took it from a good friend of ours, Jordan McRae, who used to be at CJWW in Saskatoon and at CKRM in Regina, now working at Sportsnet 960 in Calgary as a producer. And he mentioned it to me, and I said, thank you, I'm claiming this.
You're stealing it, and it's yours now.
Absolutely.
So IKS is setting up all the production stuff over at the Hub
City.
Great
job, I might add.
And I like to think that they're doing pretty good.
Yes.
They're getting some hate online, but that's okay. because the Dub Network writes articles. Paul Figler, you know who you are. I'm just kidding. It was there's some stuff. But anyways, Les, have fun at the game tonight.
Thank you.
And give me a scouting report on Connor after the game.
Absolutely. You
All
got
right.
it, Clark.
We'll be right back after the break. I got some Blue Jays news coming up and a whole lot more, so stay tuned. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain, from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar Buying Group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we as people strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life. Let's get it, baby.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
All right, welcome back. We are here for segment 3 here of the SquadCast. I'm live on TikTok right now. Decided to go live for the rest of the show because right now I'm flying solo. So I'm out here on my own. I'm all by myself. And now here's the deal. I told producer Alan that there might be a smidgen of a chance that he makes an appearance on the SquadCast for his first ever career SquadCast appearance. He's made appearances on other stuff for us in the past, but never the SquadCast. So if I get, let's say, 50 comments, and you can comment multiple times if you want. Alan, you don't count. If I get 50 comments saying, what do we want to say? Producer Alan, bring him out. Bring out producer Alan. If I get 50 of them, so Alan, you can count them, but you can't comment yourself. Alan can come out. We'll do one more segment at the end of the show. How's that sound? Alan, that fair? Hell yeah, he says. Okay, so start commenting if you want producer Alan in. But I am also flying solo, so make sure you send me a bunch of questions. If you have any hockey questions, baseball questions, basketball, Chad Isaac's sending in one of them. So send in questions now for the rest of the show. We'll get to them. But for now, we got to hit up the Bluebird Block, brought to you by our friends over at RBI Baseball and Softball Training here in Regina. There's a few things going on with the Blue Jays right now. And of course, their season starts this week officially. So they start off their season with against the Yankees on Thursday. I think they actually play in the afternoon. So Thursday afternoon, the Yankees are facing off against the Blue Jays to kick off the MLB season. There's a lot of excitement around both of those teams, so they're probably going to be going back and forth quite a bit throughout the season, but they're going to kick it off on Thursday. The Blue Jays are hoping for big bounce-back years from quite a few guys on their roster this year, mostly in the pitching side of things. So, for example, just a couple shout-outs to our TikTok viewers. Logan the Hawks fan, how's it going? Let's see who else. Maybe missed a couple here. I got to speak into the microphone, don't I? Producer Jordan, director Jordan in the back's yelling at me. Make sure you comment in on TikTok if you guys want to get some questions answered on the air. But the Jays are hoping for big bounce back years from guys. Chatwood, Steven Matz, Robbie Ray. We talked about these guys earlier in the show. Go Leafs Go, says Gravy29. So hello, Gravy. The Jays are hoping for a lot of bounce back years from guys on their pitching staff, and they need it because, if they can get these big years from these guys who are on bounce back years, the Blue Jays could be getting some major value out of guys who otherwise were kind of written off by other teams. And these guys have had success in the past. So if they can do that, it'd be huge value. The Jays will be able to see where they're at. Like I was saying earlier in the show, we had Arash Madani on the Rod Peterson show today. He gives a projection of about the MLB draft in June. If the Jays are successful around that time, he projects that they'll go out and make a big splash for a trade for a starting pitcher or bullpen arms at that time. But until then, they're going to see what they have on their current roster. My dad, Rod, is checking in. He says, will the Jays win against the Yanks on opening day? They got Ryu. I'm not sure who's starting for the Yankees, but I think the Jays are going to pop out and have a great start to the year. Janelle Barkman says, I can't believe you didn't have a Blades jersey out there with Les and Brent on the show. Sad. Sorry, Janelle. Send us one. We don't have any Blades jerseys here. So if you have a couple extras, I know you have a couple at that house of yours, send us one to the studio. We need some Blades stuff here in the studio. Jordan's cheating. He says, if y'all don't call Alan out of the control room, I'm going to kick him out myself. So that's pretty good. We got lots of people with the support for you so far, Alan. So that's looking good for you, buddy. The Jays have announced that they're extending their stay in Dunedin, Florida until May 24th at least. So you're looking at about the first 2 months or so of the MLB season. They will be playing their home games in Florida. I know that there's been reports that they might go back to Buffalo. They might try to get to Toronto, and they still are planning on getting to Toronto. But as of right now, until May 24th, the Jays are playing their home games at their complex in Dunedin. It's a beautiful complex, by the way. I wouldn't want to leave. Now, some big news. The Jays, sorry, I'm just looking at, there's some TikTok comments that are very interesting. If you ever go live on TikTok, Chad Isaac knows what I'm talking about. It gets a little interesting sometimes. The Jays have announced that Alejandro Kirk, the catcher, has made the team over Reese McGuire. Now, my understanding of it is Reese McGuire, who was on the roster last year, has not made the roster. I could be wrong, but I think they either sent him down to AAA or they've cut him completely. I have to read the headline again, but Alejandro Kirk has made the roster. So that begs the question, can he be the starting catcher for the Blue Jays? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm very curious. Can Alejandro Kirk be the starting catcher for the Blue Jays? Robin Wildey's checking in, and he asks, if Cincinnati's doing a huge sale, would the Jays take a flyer on Joey Votto for designated hitter? Maybe even a first base, Robin. I actually really like that idea. We're going to have to see how Rowdy Tellez does for the Blue Jays at first base. They have a really good squad in terms of rotation at first base and DH. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. can play first base. They've got a couple other guys, Vladdy, obviously. And then in terms of DH, Grichuk can do that. Teoscar Hernandez will be. Vladdy's going to be doing that. They'll probably DH Marcus Semien a few times. Who knows? Maybe George Springer will even DH if he's coming back from his injury or something along those lines. So right now, they're kind of looking at a surplus, Robin, at that first base DH position. But we'll see how Rowdy Tellez does, because if Rowdy, thank you. I'm getting hair compliments on TikTok. I don't often get hair compliments. Thank you. We'll get to the Leafs and everything later on here, guys, over on TikTok. We'll talk hockey in a sec. But, if Rowdy Tellez comes out to a hot start or does really well, I can see them actually just sticking with him. I don't know if Joey Votto's got a big contract. Might take a lot to get him out of Cincinnati. He's been there for a long time. So the price might not match what he's actually worth at this point in his career. My dad is chiming in. Rod Monroe says, I'm so pleased Kirk made it. Offense and some solid defense. We'll see. Now that gets to my next point. Alejandro Kirk hit 291 in spring training. And for a catcher for the Blue Jays, that's unbelievable. They haven't had a catcher hitting over 200 in a while. So for them to get that, I think since the Russell Martin days, they haven't had a catcher hitting 200. So for them to get a 291 in spring training out of Kirk gives you a lot of optimism for that. The fact that he might actually be the starting catcher for the Blue Jays. Danny Jansen hit 152, and he didn't hit much better last year. He might have hit actually worse last year than 152. So unless he just becomes a rock star defensively, Danny Jansen, I think Kirk could really quickly push for that starting catcher role with the Blue Jays, and that could be very exciting. He's a major fan favorite. And Vladdy, the Impaler, I'm calling him, has been crushing baseballs. He's hitting 421 through 17 spring training games. I think he had about 38 or 39 plate appearances, which, it's not a small sample size. It's a pretty good chunk, and he is crushing baseballs. Couple home runs. He's got 7 walks. He only struck out 5 times in 17 games. So you might be seeing the plate discipline from Vladdy coming out. Could be very interesting. If you guys are checking in on TikTok, make sure you watch us. If you want to see the full show with all of our graphics and everything, head over to facebook.com/thesquadcast. You can check us out there. We're also on Twitter @Team RP Show. That goes for everybody watching. @Team RP Show. Go follow us over there. Mike Ramage is chiming in. I think this is about Joey Votto. Pretty big contract, $25 million a year. Cincinnati would need to pay a lot of it. I'm assuming you mean for the Jays to take that contract. I completely agree. And I'd be curious to know what Cincinnati would want in terms of prospect as well, in terms of prospect loads coming back. And I'm going to say it too, Mike and Robin, since you're asking. There might be an opportunity there for them to also get Sonny Gray. We talked about it earlier with Les Lazaruk here in the studio. Sonny Gray's a guy they've targeted before. They weren't able to get. So maybe there's a combination trade with Joey Votto and Sonny Gray. That would be a splash. I don't know how much that would cost, though, for the Blue Jays. Might be quite a bit. Let's see. I think I'm missing some questions on Facebook. Alan, if you have any that have kind of fallen by the wayside, please put them up on the screen for me if you don't mind. I'll try to scroll back and check here. I don't have the VMix social, which is all of our comments. I don't have that up right now. So I'll just kind of scroll back on Facebook. But if you see one, please put it up on the screen. I'll just look up and answer it. Mike Ramage is saying, will be a tough one against Garrett Cole. So Garrett Cole is the opening day starter for the New York Yankees versus Hyunjin Ryu. So that's going to be a great game. It's going to be a big test right off the hop for the Blue Jays. Garrett Cole right off the hop. I see a lot of comments saying bring Alan out. So Alan, I think you're up, buddy. We might be heading to a break here in just a sec. Chad Isaac's one of your biggest supporters. He's put in about 20 himself. Let's see. What else have I missed here? A lot of bringing producer Alan. So here it is. You know what, Robin? You've asked this question, Robin Wildy, a few times, and I've always forgotten to get to it. You should get a cardboard cutout of Max and put it in the seat next to you, but have him wearing a Dallas Stars jersey. Robin, you've asked about the Dallas Stars. I think it was the reverse retros. Was it the reverse retros you always want to ask about, Robin, or was it the glow-in-the-dark ones? The reverse retros I don't love. I do like them a little bit better than the Detroit Red Wings. Both aren't great, but I don't love. I put the Dallas Stars reverse retro jerseys probably in the bottom 10 at least in the NHL in terms of how much I like them. I'd be curious to know your thoughts because you always ask. But Rod Monroe, you said the kid has potential. I'm pretty sure he's talking about Alejandro Kirk for the Blue Jays. So Gravy is checking in on TikTok. He says, what's your link to watch this live? Facebook.com/thesquadcast, Gravy. Head over there. You can chime in. You can comment live and ask me questions. And you can see our entire set. We have a 3D set behind me here. I'm giving away all my trade secrets that this is it's a 3D set behind me. We got a lot of stuff in here. It's cool. Robin, you want to know about the blackout greens. Now, are those the ones like the neon glow-in-the-dark green trim? I actually kind of like those ones. I like those ones. But I don't love their whites with the barely any green on them. I think they needed more green on those or something else to make those a little bit nicer. But we are at a point now where the Bluebird block, I'm getting close to saying that, Bluebird block is finished. And we got to shout out our friends over at RBI. Are you looking for a way to improve your skills on the baseball diamond? Are your kids in need of some training, skill building, or private coaching? Check out RBI Training Center today, located just east of Regina, Saskatchewan. RBI is Southern Saskatchewan's premier baseball and softball training facility. Check out their Facebook, Instagram, or their website today, because at RBI, they rise above the rest. We're going to head to a quick break here, and guess what, guys? Producer Alan's coming out. We're going to do some rapid fires with Producer Alan. after the break. Stay tuned. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain, from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar buying group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we as people strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life. Yeah, baby.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
You know, Alan, they often say it's a small world after all, and our good friend Mike Ramage, who has won a great prize basket from us in the past, said he's hanging out at RBI Regina Baseball and Softball Indoor Training Center right now. And I'm sure you tagged them in that because that's their full title. And if you typed that full title out, I'd be very impressed. We got Emery checking in. Emery Wolf's checking in. He says, have you seen the Brandon Wheat Kings blackout jerseys? They're pretty nice. Emery's a big fan of the Brandon Wheat Kings jerseys. Robin Wildy's saying they missed the boat big time on those reverse retros. Alan, are you big on the NHL reverse retro jerseys? Did you know kind of the designs of them?
I saw a few, like the Calgary Flames. They were pretty good.
You like Blasty?
Yeah.
The horse?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Too much white. They should have done green on the bottom part. I think they missed the boat. Randy Peterson's checking in. Great job, Clark. Fun show. Tuning into the Pats Warriors now. The Pats and Warriors have kicked off. They're underway. So if you're watching that on WHL.ca or Access Communications with my good buddies Rod Peterson and Darren DuPont on the call for that one, you can check that out on Access Communications. My dad is checking in and saying, Clark, it would be great to have Randy Peterson on your show to talk about the Red Deer Rebels. Randy, we might have to chat. A-Dog on YouTube, and this is a good segue into introducing my guest here right now. Watching live from Montreal, boys, Alan the intern. What a hunk. Alan, welcome to the show. It's your SquadCast debut. How you doing?
Oh, amazing. This is a dream come true.
It's a little bit warmer out here than it is in the back room, so you have to get used to that, but you'll get used to it pretty quick.
Fair enough.
Alan, I want to introduce you to the people. I want to introduce you to some people who watch the Rod Peterson Show, who know your name because Rod always calls you out and talks about you. And have you been on Rod's show? Have you made an appearance outside of like some of the best ofs? I know you've been in the building for like, the Christmas specials and stuff. So you haven't actually been on camera during Rod's show. I think you brought some stuff out one time, right?
Occasionally he would say like, hey, hand me the pen or like, or like
You brought a gift out or something once,
so
right?
Occasionally, I would go out there and be like, hey everybody, and then like run back.
So, Alan, let's talk about you for a sec before we get into sports topics. You are a U of R journalism student.
Yeah.
How's that going? And where are you at in your student career?
Right now, I'm in my first year for the journalist stuff. Basically, finished all the stuff with the internships. Basically, that it's definitely a lot more work than last semester. So yeah, so it's more of a challenge, but it's more like it's more interesting now. It's more the stuff.
Right.
The assignments that we got to do is more definitely the more entertaining.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the stuff that you've been kind of writing? If you see my phone, I'm on TikTok Live. I'm trying to get Alan on TikTok so he can be famous on TikTok. What are some of the stuff you've been writing about, Alan, covering, talking about in your classes so far this semester?
Well, for print, I did an article with talking about the CFL XFL merger.
Right.
I talked with Rod, I talked with Darren, I talked with Justin Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
I talked with Derek Dennis.
Yeah, Bone Crusher.
Yeah.
How was that conversation?
Definitely entertaining because because he played for the XFL and then the CFL, so I thought perfect guy to have a voice of. I also talked to Chris Getzlaff too as well. So it was one of the most people I got. It was one of my best articles that I did, and like that. Other ones are talking about broadcasting and like that.
Yeah.
Learning more stuff with the cameras that were always good.
Right. You learning some of the technology and stuff.
Basically, all around and like that. So it's more entertaining and that stuff with
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you get one of the best internships here, I would say. Right?
That's true, yeah.
We've loved having you here, Alan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about some topics going on in sports right now.
Yeah.
You said you're big on March Madness. Chad Isaac saying 6-4 March Madness last Elite 8 game. Go Blue! So he's cheering for Michigan. He also said earlier that UCLA was up 4-2 and Michigan. Oh, so UCLA's playing Michigan.
Yeah.
So what have your thoughts been on the March Madness tournament so far? I haven't been as involved in it emotionally or as a fan as I have been in the past. But what have you thought of the tournament this year overall?
Overall, for the tournament, I would say it's basically like Cinderella. It was
right.
It was the age of the upsets, basically. My tournament thing. Bracket. It went right to the garbage, basically.
Same.
So I wasn't very excited. Also,
who did you pick? Who was your big one that blew it for you?
Ohio State.
I
put him I made him ran for the gambit.
Oral Roberts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat him.
Yeah. So I was disappointed. I normally pick Duke for the March Madness, but unfortunately they weren't there, so that was a real letdown.
Well, yeah, I'm a big Duke guy too.
Yeah.
Gavin is checking in on Facebook now. Here's where the magic happens here, guys, because I've gone live on TikTok a few times. Gavin's checking in saying, "Hey, Gravy 029 here. Go Leafs, go." Hi, Alan. So he's from TikTok.
Gavin.
He's coming over from TikTok. So shout out to everybody watching right now. Greg Bronze, my good old pal Greg Bronze, who used to be my high performance coach for Saskatchewan baseball. I don't even know what NBA team is playing these days. I'm Alan. You're my basketball guy. What's going on in the NBA right now? Who's hot right now?
Basically, for the Brooklyn Nets are the Monstars.
Oh yeah,
they got.
Yeah, tell me about the Nets because they're picking up guys left, right, and center right now.
Basically, they're a bunch of guys who are ring chasing. They got LaMarcus Aldridge, they got Blake Griffin, they got one of the best big threes they got with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant.
Right.
I used to complain about LeBron and how he would have when him in Miami days with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, but this is just absurd.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like that. So
so our good buddy Andrew Gottslig over at Hoop Life said the next time he's on this show, he is going on a big rant about the Brooklyn Nets and how he's starting to hate them. He was a supporter of the Nets.
Yeah.
He was cheering for James Harden a little bit, but now it says it's getting a little out of control, and he's a little mad now. Janelle Barkman saying, Jealous, Alan. I was heading into journalism and sports broadcasting when I was going to college. Life situation changed, but was always my dream. Keep working hard. You'll do great. So shout out to Janelle for that.
Janelle. Oh.
Absolutely. Chad Isaac says he has Michigan and Houston still going to the Final Four. So, Chad, you are a wizard, my good man. Because I don't think I honestly stopped looking at my bracket after a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had no chance. Alan, I want to know your thoughts on the Toronto Raptors. You're a Raptors fan, I think you would say.
Yeah.
They kept Kyle Lowry. And I want to know your thoughts on, was that a good move? Keeping Kyle Lowry for the Raptors instead of dumping him or trading him for draft picks, future assets, whatever it might have been.
Well, I would say it would have been better to trade him because, like, he's already in a contract year, so like might as well get him for something, and then he's probably going to ask for the same amount of money. So
you would think, right?
Yeah, so I think it would probably get dump him to Philly to go back home or maybe like what they did for the Heat like that. 'Cause you would have got like a decent return, but I can see why people would have probably threw him to the shed because it was his birthday. So
right.
I feel like that would have been like one of the best birthday presents.
Yeah, I'm torn because I obviously see the value in trading a guy like Kyle Lowry. Getting future assets, maybe a couple guys who could play on your roster, but the legacy he's had. Maybe they weren't getting a good return. Maybe the other general managers were out there saying, we don't want to give you anything at all. Or maybe, they were holding out because they knew the value of Kyle and they wanted to maximize it. So maybe it's a situation where they re-sign him, he comes back next year, and then they trade him next year. I don't know. I was kind of hoping in the back of my mind that they might go out and get Andre Drummond and kind of actually try to make a little bit of a push. Because they could use a big man, I think, in Toronto, and they got shooters, they have the guards, they have Pascal Siakam. So I was thinking if they could get a big man like Andre Drummond, it might kind of balance out their roster, and maybe they go on a bit of a run. But didn't happen. They didn't get anybody, and now they traded away Terrence Davis, they traded away Matt Thomas, a bunch of their depth guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to do the rest of the season, but we'll see, I guess. Maybe the magic of Kyle Lowry comes back and they make another push for a playoff spot. Alan, what else have you got going on right now?
Basically finals.
Finals, school, keeping you busy.
Yeah, basically school. All this, I got a lot of assignments going on. That's basically it for that.
It's keeping you busy, hey?
Yeah.
Are you excited? What are your thoughts on the NHL right now? And I know you're not the big hockey guy. You're a basketball guy at heart. Actually, you know what? Let's go with the NFL. You're Seattle Seahawks. You're a big Seahawks fan. You like making fun of me because I'm a Falcons fan. I get it.
How about the 28-3 like that? That was
I haven't gotten one of those in a while, so it keeps me grounded.
Yeah, there you go.
So what are your thoughts right now on the Seahawks? I know you're kind of worried about Russell Wilson. Where is your head at with the Seahawks right now?
I feel like it's somewhat better now because we kind of brushed over the kind of mini crisis of him wanting to leave, but we resigned Carlos Dunlap, got Chris Carson back. We're resigning our key players, and even though we have these big trade offers, I'm glad that it wasn't pulled. Like for example, for the Chicago Bears. I'm just glad he's still there.
Right. Absolutely. And I think they've made a couple of additions, haven't they, in the offseason?
Yeah.
Have they signed a couple guys? Offensive linemen, maybe?
Yeah. Gabe Jackson.
Yes, they got Gabe Jackson.
For the Orlando.
Yes.
So, normally it's either you sign a defensive lineman and they convert him to offensive line for the Seattle, or they draft some guy in the 7th round. We literally never invest in offense. It is laughable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping that they can figure something out. And I think by the sounds of it, right now, the sounds of it is that they're going to keep Russell. So I think you'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
A-Dog is loving you, Alan. Besides looking hot, what else are you up to? So A-Dog's loving you right now. Robin Wildy agrees they need to upgrade their offensive line and protect Russell Wilson more. And he also said, I was just going to say that. It would tarnish his legacy. This is about Kyle Lowry. Would tarnish his legacy if they traded him for a less than stellar return. Bengals signed Ricardo Allen from Atlanta. My guy, Ricardo Allen. You won't be that impressed, Chad. He wasn't that good. Lowry would have brought some decent returns to Toronto, but Toronto wants him to be a lifer, my dad says. So there's a lot that goes into the Kyle Lowry situation, and we'll just kind of have to see how it plays out. But Alan, thank you for coming out and making your debut.
Hell yeah. Hope more to come. For that.
Absolutely. I think we'll probably be doing this a little bit here as we go. So I guess that kind of does it here for us tonight. By the way, before we go, make sure you check out hooplifebasketball.com. We just had a great basketball chat. And if you want to get better at basketball, make sure you download the app. If you guys are watching right now, download the Hoop Life basketball app. Just go on your app store, type in Hoop Life, download the app. And use promo code SQUAD10 for 10% off their clothes, their merchandise, their apparel, any of their camps. If you have somebody in your life who's a basketball player, maybe a kid of yours, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, you can purchase a gift card for a camp, and you can use promo code SQUAD10 for 10% off of everything on their website. So make sure you guys do that. They also have their online training program. They're calling it the Overtime Training feature. You can go online on your phone, on your app with their instructors. It's pretty sick. So make sure you do that. Tomorrow on the Rod Peterson Show, because I do produce that show as well, Reed Johnson is on the show from the XFL MarkCast. It's apparently the #1 XFL podcast out there, and he's on our show. And Robin Wildy says, "Holy crap!" Before 8:30. Hey, I blame Max. You notice that Max isn't here and we're done pretty much on time? Weird. That's all I'm going to say. Kelly Rempel, the Silver Fox, is in the studio tomorrow for hour 2. And Joey Kenward from Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver. So we're looking forward to that. Next week on the SquadCast, I'm kind of juggling 2 people right now. I'm not sure exactly who we're going to get on. But one guy I want to get on again for his second appearance on this show is Sportsnet's Ken Reed. Ken Reed might be coming back on, might be next week. Thank you, Mike Ramage, for checking in. We will see you again. Say hi to Chris and the boys out at RBI for me. And another one I'm juggling is Maple Leafs reporter Paul Hendrick. So Paul, I've talked to him a lot. He's been on the Rod Peterson Show 3 or 4 times, I think. So I'm kind of juggling right now between Paul Hendrick and Ken Reed. But over the next 2 or 3 weeks, both of those people will be on. So I'm very excited. Those guys are awesome to talk to. And we will make sure we get them on soon, especially before the trade deadline, because I want to get Paul Hendrick's thoughts on the Maple Leafs before and or after the trade deadline. So that should be good. But from the basement of the bunker, we are signing off. I'm producer Clark. Shout out to Mad Max, by the way. Get better soon, Maxie.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Max.
We'll keep chatting. Hopefully you're better. But director Jordan in the back, producer Alan, he's not in the back anymore. He's out here. Thanks for hopping on, Alan. Yeah. Plus our good buddy Les Lazaruk from the Saskatoon Blades. Thank you for chiming in and jumping in here and pinch hitting, as they say. Yeah. And our good friends at Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions, IKS Media, Vigor Lifestyles, Hoop Life Basketball Training, RBI Baseball and Softball Training, and Flame Tech. We'll see you next week. I don't have a lyric because Max always writes the lyrics, and Max isn't here. Do you have any songs you stuck in your head right now?
Hey, Macarena.
Perfect. Nailed it. We'll see you next week.